Hello, this is Jamie Magritte. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to do 3 cards, a simple, a casual, and an avid card using Flowering Blooms. I'm also going to be using the coordinating dies for the avid card, the flowering dies. And for both the casual and the avid card, the Dainty Diamonds 3D embossing folder. For the casual card, I'm bringing in a couple of blends. For the avid card, I'm bringing in gold embossing powder. And for all the cards, I'm using soft seafoam tuxedo black. And I'm using this die, this stamp, and this sentiment, and I've taken this part off. You could mask it and do it separate, but I wanted it. It's just easier for me to do it this way. And show you what we're going to be using for as far as paper. Get it out. Okay. I have a card base. It's thick, 5.5 by 8.5. I've scored it and folded it at 4 1/4. I have a piece of black, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. I have a piece of Daffodil Delight, which is 4 by 5 1/4. I have a piece of black, which is 3 by 4 1/4, and a piece of Whisper White, which is 2.5 by 4. So let's get started. Let's put these over here. Let's bring in this Whisper White piece. I think you can still see it. And I'm going to bring in this, I think it's a bougainvillea, I think that's what it's called. I'm not 100% sure on that. And I'm bringing the soft seafoam ink. I want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. And I ink this flower up with the soft seafoam. And I'm going to stamp it a little bit over to the left hand side. Not a lot. It's like if you're dividing this piece into the thirds, it's on that third, on that line. Okay. And I'm going to bring in Memento Tuxedo Black and my sentiment, and again it's one sentiment. It came like this, and I just cut between the kindness and the is, and then I move this down here. You could stamp it separately, mask it, that would work as well. Let's see, it goes like right there. Okay, and since I moved it, let me check and make sure it's straight. Oh, somehow I got something on there. Oops, I didn't ink it enough. Alright, so now, I just want to make sure this is on there right. Okay. I'm going to stamp this so that the K sits right about in between those stems. Perfect. Cover on this. I end up with black ink everywhere if I don't. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to bring in, I'm going to flip this over. Well, maybe I won't. Alright, bring in our pieces. This is going to get mounted onto the 3 by 4 1/4 inch piece, and again this was 2.5 by 4 inches. I'm just going to use my combo. It just gives me that wiggle room I enjoy. Okay, and there's going to be an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around because it's a 1/4 inch larger. A black piece. Okay, I'm going to bring these in. I'm going to mount this black piece to the front of my card. And it's going to be the same size as the front of the card. Alright, and then I'm going to mount this centered on there. Oh, and then I'm going to attach this. And you can center that right in the center of that card. Now, I think you notice that my card base is a little bit off. Bring in my trimmer here. See if I can trim that. It might be too thick a card. I'll trim it up later. There we go. It's a very simple card. Now I want to show you my sample. On my sample I used one of the other stamps in the set and I stamped around the edge with it. So you could do that as well. But I really like the simpleness of just the plain card. So that's the first one. Alright, let's come in for the second card. Okay, on this card we have the same pieces as the first one. The card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. The basic black, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. The Daffodil Delight, which is 4 by 5 1/4. However, this one I have run through the embossing folder. And again, let me find the label for it. It is the Dainty Diamonds embossing folder. You could use any. A dotted Swiss one would be great for this. The black, which is 3 by 4 1/4, and the Whisper White, which is 2.5 by 4. So let's stamp this. I'm going to stamp it the same way we did the other one. And I am using the soft seafoam. Memento black for the sentiment. We're stamping it exactly the same way as we did the other one. Okay. Now we're going to bring in the blends. And I would use the Daffodil Delight light and dark, but I don't have, yeah, see my Daffodil Delight, my yellow markers are shot. I need to get some new ones. So I'm going to go in with this dark Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to add some dark in some of these dark areas. You don't really need very much. Okay, and then since I don't have a lighter color, I'm going to come in with one of my Copics. I'm going to color this in. It's a real soft light yellow. And like I said, I would be using the light Daffodil Delight if I had it, but it's spent. Okay, and then I might come in with the light Mango Melody and add just a little bit more dark. It's a very soft, subtle coloring. It's really not, and that's all I did. See? Okay, then we're going to mount it up the same way we did. I have a tip for you. You see this edge of this is a little bit rough. I don't know if you can even see it. Just bring in a nail file. Smooth that out. Okay. So let's go ahead and layer these up. Come on, move. Thank you. Alright, and the Daffodil Delight, I've run through that embossing folder already. Either side would be pretty. Both of them are nice. Center that up. Okay, then this, I'm going to add some dimensionals on. Take those backs off. That one didn't come off. That one came off. There we go. Alright. Center that on the front of the card or put it over a little bit to the left. I'm going to put this one over a little bit to the left. Okay, so there's card number 2. Now, the third card. Get the pieces out. I've also brought in the Thoughtful Nature's Thoughts die. I've used that. So I have my card base. I have my black layer, which is the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have my Daffodil Delight layer, which is, oh come on, sticking together, the same as the previous card where I've run it through that Dainty Diamonds embossing folder, and it is 4 by 5 1/4. I have a black piece, which is 1/16 by 4 9/16, because I wanted to matte this layer, which is the brushed metallic foil paper that I cut out with the Nature's Thought die. You could get away with 3 by 4 1/2. You would have a smaller little bit of a frame. Basically all I did was put it on there and cut around the size that I wanted it to be. Okay, I have a piece of white to stamp on a scrap. I have my white layer, which is the 2 1/2 by 4 inch, and then another scrap for a sentiment, and then I have a gold, this one is a scrap of the gold foil, and it's like a little more than a 1/4 of an inch, and this is just a scrap from a paper pumpkin between the die cuts, so you could use either one of those. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in, I'll just use the scissors for this. I'm going to go ahead and flag the ends on this. Okay, so what I did, I found the center, I put a little snip into the center, however deep I want my flag to be, and then I'm going to go from the outside corner to the bottom of that snip. And that's going to give me a perfect flag. Okay, so let's place these pieces aside. And we're going to do our stamping first. So let's take this white scrap, and this one is like 2 3/4 inches across by, let's see, 3 1/4. How big? I need it this side. Okay, so I'm going to stamp my sentiment down at the bottom of this. It doesn't need to be as wide as this, but I want to make sure I have enough space. Perfect. Okay, let's close up this black ink before I have a disaster. Okay, and I'm going to bring in my trimmer. And I'm going to put this in. The top has a ridge, so I like to put the paper up against the ridge. I'm going to pull it out till the yaw is just about even with the edge of the blade here, or the guard, and I'm going to trim it. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the gold piece. I'm going to find the center. I'm going to put a little snip in the center, and then I'm going to go from that corner to the bottom of that snip. Let's do the other side. Okay. Clean this off. Put that over here. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my scratch piece here. Is this long enough? No. Just grab another piece. There we go. That was a thick, I think. Okay, there's a whisper white piece. And I'm going to clean off my stamp because I'm going to bring in Versamark. Organized today, let me tell you. Never stay organized. I think I'm so organized, but it never seems to work. Okay, so I'm going to ink this up well with the Versamark. I'm going to stamp it. I'm going to go ahead and do a second one while I'm at it, so just in case. Okay, then I'm going to come in with my gold embossing powder. That's really pretty. Go ahead and do the other one. This one I got a little bit of the edge, my stamp. Where did my brush go? I had a brush sitting here. So come in with a paintbrush, clean dry one, and just brush any extra away. And that's because I pushed too hard with my stamp. I got too aggressive. Okay, let me put this away so I don't make a mess. Alright, there's my brush. I'm bringing my heat tool. I bring in a cutting board for a couple reasons. One, so I don't warp my mat. And one, because it helps to dissipate the heat so the paper warps a little bit less. Heat gun has 2 settings. I'm going to put it on 2. Warm up just a little bit. Just a little, so maybe you can see this turning. I'm not sure you're going to be able to, but and you want to hold it on there just long enough for the embossing powder to turn to a shiny molten state. If you hold it on too long, you're going to either scorch your paper or melt the embossing powder completely into the paper, and then it won't be shiny anymore. You can see that. There we go. Now we're going to bring in the matching die. Which is this one here. And we're going to go to our machine and cut this out. And I will be right back as soon as I'm done. I want to share with you a tip on how to get your die lined up. I have a die cut from the same die. I'm going to use the negative space, to line up where I want my die to go. I'm going to tape that to my paper, and I'm going to just fit this die right into that space. It's going to fit right in that, like a puzzle piece. And then I'm going to tape that down and run it through my machine. And I will be right back. Okay, let's see how that came out. There we go. We got a perfect die cut. So I'll keep this with my dies. Alright, let's clean up here a little bit. Bring in our pieces. Okay, I'm going to start by gluing my black piece to the front of my card. Okay, I'm going to adhere the Daffodil Delight layer, and again I emboss this with the Dainty Diamonds embossing folder. Trying to decide if I want to put it the other side up this time, but okay. I'm going to bring in these pieces, and I'm going to layer this gold foil piece that I die cut with the Nature's Thoughts die onto my black layer. Oops, right there. Okay. And this white layer is going to get mounted on top of that. And it's the same size as the other one. It's the 2.5 by 4 inches. It's going to get centered right in the center of this. Okay, now we're going to bring in our banners. Figure out where we want that flower to go. And this banner is going to get glued right to the white piece. The gold piece will. Need it to move down just a hair, I think. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of hold one side and glue the other side. So I want to know about where I want it. I guess I'll just glue it. Good guess. Okay, this one is going to get dimensionals on the back of it. And I'm just going to put 2 dimensionals on each side. And the piece that we foiled or embossed, we're going to put some dimensionals on the back of it. Probably don't need as many as I use, but I don't like it when it sags. Okay, let's take those backs off of the rose. I'm just going to use my nails, sorry. I'll find it just as easy for me. But I do have nails. Alright, so now I'm going to put this rose where it would be if we stamped it. Notice I didn't put anything under the stem because this will hold it down anyway. Take those backings off of this one. center the V's on this over this. I probably could have put it down a little bit lower. I'm going to just lower this a little bit. Alright. And then we're going to put dimensionals on the back of this. And center that on the front of our card. There we go, there's the Avid one. Here's the one I did previous. This one I think I centered more, but there we go. Here's all of our cards. There's the simple version, the very simple version. Here's a little bit stepped up where I stamped the background. Here's the casual version where I added an embossing folder and some dimensionals. And the alcohol markers. And here is the Avid version where I added die cuts, gold cardstock, some layers in the and embossing. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper. And I hope you can find one of these versions that you might enjoy trying to make. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.